Hello my friends and welcome to this video today. So in today's video I want to talk about a lens, but don't switch off right away because this video might be interesting for you as well if you are searching for a new standard zoom lens. And when we talk about standard zoom lenses, especially when we talk about the semi-professional or professional area of photography, lenses are super expensive. You know, you have the Sony lens, for example, the 24-70mm with the f2.8 aperture in the second generation, the G Master lens, you all know it. It is an absolute beast of a lens. It looks beautiful. It does an amazing job, amazing sharpness. Everything is great, but it is super expensive. It will cost you around 2,500 euros in my currency, or yeah, I believe in dollar price it is similarly high. So this is really, really expensive. I mean, technically speaking, I could buy one of these, but at the end of the month, I would sit under a bridge because I can't pay my rent, and then I would sit there and enjoy my lens, but my life wouldn't be necessarily happy then. So I decided not to buy this lens, and that's basically an everlasting story when it comes to my photography, because as I said in a previous video, I make a living from photography, which is great, and I'm super thankful that I can do that, but I always have to be super cautious what gear I really need and what I buy, because yeah, as I said, I need to make this somewhat profitable to pay my rent and pay for food and activities, and you all know the stuff that you need money for in your daily life. So yeah, I can't just buy the latest and greatest technology all the time. So I looked around for a bit, and I think I found a lens that looked very, very promising. I ordered one from Canary Photography. That is a local photography shop here in Germany. I don't know if they are international. This video is obviously not sponsored, but yeah, I bought them from that, and I will show you the lens right now. So as you can see, I've bought a 24-105mm lens from Sony. It is an f4 aperture, but I will talk about that more in a second. And this lens honestly wasn't too expensive at all when it comes to lenses. I will show you the invoice here. You can hopefully see it right now. It says 579 euros for this lens. I bought this used, pre-owned actually, but when you buy from certified professional dealers here in Germany, at least, you got a warranty with it, and the new one wasn't so much more expensive. I think it was around 800 euros, something like that. So I think I found a pretty good deal there. I now want to try out this lens and see if it's really worth the money, if it's good at all, because it is not the newest lens by any means. It is around, I believe, 6 years old at this time when it first launched. So yeah, not a new lens, but I heard great things about that. So let's head out to a local botanical garden where I live and see if we can take some nice shots there. So stick around and let's go. So I've headed out to a botanical garden nearby now in my city, and I want to see what photos I can take here with this new lens. So yeah, let's take a look around first and see what we can do. So, and with that said, let's take a look around here now, and everything that you see in this video, except for the clips that I've marked, they all have been recorded with this very lens, and also the photos obviously that I will show you in this video. So as you can see, the trees, they don't have a lot of leaves at this time of the year. It is already April again, but they just start to get their leaves back. However, all the beautiful spring flowers, they are already blooming again, and this looks very, very beautiful. I try to find a few nice scenes and compositions here now. So this lens, it has an f4 aperture at the most, and most people will say now, well, that is not really good because there are a ton of lenses out there with better aperture. For example, your normal standard zoom lens will have an f2.8 aperture. However, for my use case, and I use this lens, or I want to use this lens for my professional work life as a wedding photographer, and also in my personal photography life, if you want to call it like this, as a nature and landscape photographer, I nearly all the time close the aperture to at least f4. For example, when I do wedding shootings, even indoors, I want to close my aperture. I want to have it at like f4, f5.6 even, because you know, the people that I have in front front of my camera, they are not lined up perfectly. This means that if I have a very wide open aperture, the problem is that the focal plane will be very small and very narrow. So if someone is just a little bit behind the other person, they will get out of focus very quickly, and I want to have, in this case, the couple in focus, and so I will close the aperture up so that I can have a sharp face on both of them. And this is the reason why I close the aperture. There are certain times when I need a wider aperture for very special photos, for example, and in this case I would use, for example, an f1.4 85mm lens, which I also have. But for the most time, like for example for the wedding ceremony itself, I will use a standard zoom lens, as I said, with at least f4 as an aperture. So in this case this will not be a problem. And same goes basically for the landscape and nature shots. You know, everyone who loves landscape photography knows that, you know, f8 is your best friend, and I nearly always close my aperture to like f8 or f9 even, sometimes maybe even f16 if I want to have a beautiful sun star in the corner of my image. So this is also not a problem. So some could argue now that the low light performance of this lens will be very bad with an f4 aperture. And while this is partly true, you have to keep in mind that nowadays you have like super powerful tools like AI denoising features. So even with the Sony A7R series, in this case the A7R4, going with ISO 10,000 is actually no problem nowadays. And I constantly do this because I know even if the photos have a little bit of noise, I can just remove it with the AI denoise feature. So that's not a problem here at all. The next thing is the focal range of this lens, and you have 24mm on the far side, which is pretty much a standard wide angle lens. And then you have, instead of 70mm like on the most standard zoom lenses, you have 105mm, which doesn't sound like so much, but 105mm, it really gets you into the realm basically of telezoom lenses. So 105mm is pretty far zoomed in, honestly, and it is great to have the capability. For example, when I'm outside in nature, you know, every gram counts basically, and this lens isn't necessarily super lightweight, but if it is the only lens that I need and that I bring, you know, it will save me weight when I otherwise would have to bring like 3 different lenses. So in this regard, this is really cool. So the next thing, and as I said, this is not an in-depth review, there are better videos out there if you want to have detailed statistics on the sharpness, for example, but I feel like the sharpness of this lens is honestly really good throughout the whole focal range basically. On 24mm, on 50, on 70 and even on 105mm you have very sharp centers of your image. The sharpness will degrade a little bit when it comes to the corner areas of the picture, which is to be expected, honestly. There are better lenses out there, like for example prime lenses. They will give you better sharpness, and if you want to have this last few percentages of sharpness in your image, I would suggest go with prime lenses or with higher priced lenses, like for example the G Master f2.8 24 to 70mm. But keep in mind, this lens is only 579 euros, and you could buy like 4 or 5 of them for a single G Master Mark II. So with that in mind, I think the sharpness is really good. And you know, it is a Sony built lens. They have great quality as always. So I believe it is really good value for money that you get here. So one thing that I have noticed with this lens are the chromatic aberrations. They are clearly visible in a lot of pictures, not all of them, but it also depends on the lighting situation. But yeah, it can be pretty visible. And this is a point where newer lenses or more expensive lenses, they will get you better results. However, keep in mind that, you know, you can delete chromatic aberrations with a single button in Lightroom. You just have to activate it and it will delete basically all chromatic aberrations. So in this regard, I have to say it's not a big problem for me at least, but if that's something that is concerning to you, just keep that in mind, I would say. if you're interested in this lens, feel free to check out other videos here on YouTube which go into much more detail when it comes to the technical specs of this lens. This video is meant to be an inspiration to people that cannot spend thousands of dollars for a single lens but still want to get the best results possible, and I think a lens like this is a great way. And as I also said, this is a pre-owned lens, and yeah, take a look around in pre-owned marketplaces. Basically, I would always suggest go with certified dealers, certified camera dealers, instead of looking on eBay, because you will get a warranty with it, as I said. So with that all said, I will switch back now to my studio, or for that reason my desk basically, and then I will tell you a few more things, so stick around a little bit longer. So here we are back again. Let's talk about the final results basically. So I believe this lens will give you great value for money. It is not the newest lens, it is not the sharpest lens, it doesn't have the widest aperture, but it has a great autofocus. I really cannot complain at all about that. I tried out newer lenses which weren't as good as this lens. If you want to do video, for example, the image stabilization is pretty good. And for example, the f4 aperture, which might be a problem for some people, I can assure you, most of the time you won't need an aperture wider than f4. Because let's be honest, if you're outdoors and taking nature photos, you want to close the aperture to like f8 or stuff like that. So you really do not need the f2.8 aperture in like 99% of times. If you are, for example, a star photographer, Milky Way photographer, astronomy photographer, I don't know, then you would definitely need a lens with a wider aperture, but then even an f2.8 might not be enough for you. So you might consider, yeah, for example, taking prime lenses with, for example, f1.8 aperture or stuff like that. So with that said, this is not a super comprehensive review of this lens. It is just basically my personal feelings about this lens and why I bought it. And if you stuck around for this long, thank you so much for watching. I have a ton of other videos about photography related topics over on my YouTube channel, so feel free to check them out as well. I linked a few of them up here. But for now, I wish you a great day, I wish you a great week, and I hope I see you in next week's video. So see you then, and goodbye.